Fayette County, known as one of the best places for black people to live, work, and enjoy life. It's comprised of nice neighborhoods and communities. A place where black businesses can thrive. A county with black government leaders. A place where children can play with each other, no matter what race. A place where everyone can enjoy music and entertainment, dine at nice restaurants, a place where black residents can proudly call home, and more importantly, feel safe. The Black History of Fayette County, a journey of strength and determination. Life for the black residents of Fayette County is one of comfort, community involvement, and respect.
Today's event was a beautiful event. It was turned out by some 50 different groups. The Corvette group had 75 by themselves. And it was beautiful weather. The weather held off. We don't have any rain. Great participation. It was a great event.
But this was not always the case. Fayette County was founded in 1821. It was primarily a farm area that depended on the labor of slaves, ex-slaves, and sharecroppers to work the fields to sustain its economy and provide a higher quality of life for the white population. Living in three-room shanties on the property of the white landowners they worked for, black residents endured extremely hard times and relentless threats and punishments if they did not comply with the rules set by the local governments and by society. Societal rules that demanded that if a black person was walking toward a white person on a sidewalk or street, the black person had to step aside or move across the street as the white person approached, and must not make eye contact. This even applied to driving an automobile. In 1919, a young black man named Charles Kelly, who had recently returned home from fighting during World War I, was driving when he approached an oncoming car driven by a young white male. When Kelly did not pull over to the side of the road, the white driver turned around and followed him to his father's house. The white driver then went home and told his father what had happened. His father and others went back to the home of Charles Kelly's father for a confrontation. Out of fear for his life, Charles Kelly ran and was shot to death. No criminal charges were filed against the white men who took this innocent young black man's life, who had recently returned home from World War I. Today, the Fayette County Community Remembrance Coalition has a mission to honor those whose lives were tragically ended by lynchings. Jan Bryant, co-chair of the organization, talked about their commitment.
I'm co-chair of the Fayette County Community Remembrance Coalition. We also call ourselves the FCCRC. And we came about as a community members who were interested in bringing the history of the lynchings here in Fayette County. It was started by EJI, which is the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery. They were encouraging remembrance coalitions across the country, especially in the South, to bring the history and the education of lynchings across the South.
Regardless of the unequal treatment, black residents were able to overcome many of the obstacles they faced. With strength and determination, they were able to survive in a harsh society and enjoy living near neighbors and extended family. Three of the most popular black communities for early residents were Sugar Hill, Church Street, and Inman. Two prominent black families whose ancestors were among the early black residents of Fayette County spoke about their lives. Donna Han McCoy, an ancestor of the Reuben Gay family, talked about her life growing up on a farm in the Inman community that was owned by her great-great-grandfather. And Thomas Dorsey, a descendant of the well-known Dorsey family, talked about his family's history as residents of Fayette County since 1842. Here's Donna's story.
I am the great-great-granddaughter of Reuben Gay Sr., who is now established as a historical landmark, the Reuben Gay Place down in Inman. My great-great-grandfather was one of the richest enslaved in the county. He owned over at least 400 acres of land. He never was a sharecropper, but people worked for him. He built a community, a church, and everyone there today still comes around the Reuben Gay Place. The house is still standing, from which he built back in the late 1800s, and we are just so happy to share our community and how it has played an important part in Fayette County. I could share many things, but the thing that I love the most about living in Inman is farming. Growing up, we had a community where we had a farm where everybody in the community could come and pick the collard greens, and we had a scuffing down tree that you bag the truck up and get on the back of the truck. You have to be careful, because if you're not shaking the scuffing down, falling down on the truck, you may see a snake. And so then we knew it was time to go. But my favorite vegetable that my dad assigned to me was the okra. So I couldn't let the okra get too big, because when the okra got too big, you couldn't eat it. And we had hogs and cows, and my brothers, they had to dig the coal for the fireplace. So yes, the outhouse, I grew up on that farm. And that's how I learned how to drive my car, is by driving that old lawnmower. And my daddy, he had a plow, and he had us out there plowing, and we had the old mule, and my dad can share all those names with you. And I'm just so happy to share this with you all, because it's taking me back to those good old days where you could leave your front door open and go to town and come back, and you may have to do a lot of dusting, because the dirt road out there and the cars going up and down the road and dust flying in the house. So
An important service that Donna provides with the help of volunteers is the cleaning of the historical slave cemetery located at Antioch Church in Woolsey. Her dedication and commitment help to honor and preserve the legacy of those whose strength and determination still carries us forward today. Life and work inside the city were different from the rural areas, but the desire and struggles to obtain a better life were the same. Thomas Dorsey, whose grandfather lived in the Church Street community, spoke about his family's history.
Tell you a little bit. That's a lot. I don't know where to start from, but I guess I can start with my third great grandfather. He born in 1828, and he came here over from Clayton County, Henry County at the time, in 1842 with Solomon Dorsey. And Tom, his name was Thomas, my third great grandfather, and they called him Tom. And he was only about 14 years old, and Solomon was his owner. He was about 17 years old. They came together off of Solomon's father's plantation. His father's name was John Dorsey. And we've been in this county here since 1842. Solomon Dorsey's son, R.J. Dorsey, bought a lot of parcels of land on Church Street. And he sold a lot to the blacks, a lot of the Dorseys that came out of slavery right there on Church Street. There's a whole lot of Dorseys who used to live on Church Street. And that's 2024, you may have two that live there now. A lot of them moved away, and how times changed, yes.
A source of strength in the black communities was the church. It provided a place to gather, socialize, and retain hope that a better life was coming here on earth and in the hereafter.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Velma E. Grant. I serve as the pastor of Flipper Chapel AME Church. It has a rich history. They're located in what's known as a Sugar Hill community. And so the church has been organized since 1911. Therefore, this year we'll be celebrating 113 years in that community. Yes, it's been a long time. I find that as a pastor it's important to be involved, not only in the church, not only when the church doors are open, but to be involved in the community. As a matter of fact, there are members in our community who are not members of our church, but they faithfully serve us, and they help the pastor, and they help the church as well. And so we don't want the church just to be there for just church members, because the church is not the building. We are the church, and we can serve God's people outside of the building as well as in the building. And so the community knows that we are there for them, and we intend to be there for them as long as it's needed.
Some of my fondest memories is we grew up in the church. We had to go to church on Sundays regardless. My grandmother sang in the choir. She was one of the members that loved her church. She did everything for her church. All of the community were involved in the church. Sunday school teacher actually and the musician actually was our school teacher as well. So what you did Monday through Friday is spilled over to Sunday. So you had to do the things that was right in the house of God.
An important and crucial service the church provided was education for black children, who for many years were not allowed to attend public schools. They were taught in churches, lodge halls, and old houses.
It was a little youth hall at the end of the church, and that's where I went to school. And then we would play, and my fond memories of the church was playing, running around out there playing balls and getting with the other kids, playing, and we just had a lot of fun.
In 1955, all of the black schools were consolidated into the newly built Fayette County Training School, which was located in the Sugar Hill community. One of Fayette's most prominent teachers was Mrs. Rosa P. Anderson. She began her teaching career with her church and later taught at the Fayette County Training School. When schools were integrated in 1969, she was one of only a very few black people assigned to teach in Peachtree City. In 1976, she was named Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Rosa Anderson's daughter, Darrell Anderson, is a lifelong resident of Fayette County and serves as the friendly, welcoming receptionist at Fayetteville's City Hall.
One of the great things about Mama teaching here in Fayetteville is the fact that she taught in a place that's now part of Edgefield Baptist Church Community Center. It was an old Masonic building, and she would teach there. She had, a classroom that would go from not one, first grade through fifth. It would just be one big open school at that point. But she was their teacher, and she taught while Daddy worked, because he was out of the service at that time. And I think I have some pictures that I'll try to locate to shows her. And then they moved down the street to another old building where she did the same thing, until they created, Fayette County Board of Ed created the Fayette County Training School. For those of us who are black, we know what the training school included. All its grades in one building. So at the Fayette County Training School, which is off Booker, you had the elementary on one end and high school on the other end. Same cafeteria, same everything, but it was in one building. And the building's still there. But after during the creation of Peachtree City, Mama was one of the first teachers, one of the first group to be assigned to Peachtree City. And when she retired from Huddleston Elementary School, and actually became got the honor of Teacher of the Year while there. But then that's just my mom. She was just a real sweet darling. I loved her, loved her, loved her, loved her. As a child, with my playmates up and down Church Street, we had a lot of fun. We played a lot, a lot. We lived in a house that my father built. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, a home. Just a tiny brick home. But we were raised there and next door to the church, Edgefield Baptist Church. And it was just a nice era, a nice neighborhood. I'm blessed now with an absolutely wonderful job. I call it my happy place at City Hall. And one of my ministry is to meet and greet and say something nice to someone every day that I'm there. And it's in keeping with my mama, because that's what she did. And I want to extend her legacy.
To show how much Ms. Anderson is truly loved and appreciated, a fund was started to build her a new house in the Church Street community. The community where she grew up and in her heart will always be the neighborhood she calls home. Other residents who grew up in Fayette County shared their experiences of living in a society that was changing from a culture of segregation and inequality to a culture of integration and equal opportunities.
I was born and raised here in Fayetteville. Fayetteville, as growing up, it was hard for me to understand what I was experiencing with my family, especially my father, because he was always accepted to the name Black Charlie. And I would question, Daddy, why would they call you Black Charlie when your name is Brewster? He says, honey, don't worry about that. I do what I can to keep my family going. Daddy was very supportive and loving. My mother, Carrie, she was so supportive and loving. And one thing that gave me the energy, the desire to improve my life was to go to college, in which I did. My mother was known as the black nurse for the black people back in the day of living in Fayetteville. And I can remember when I was a little girl, I would go to she worked for a doctor, Dr. Farrell A. Sams, and she was a nurse assistant. And she learned the rules and the trade of the job of being a nurse assistant. But what I didn't understand, why was there separate waiting rooms? There was a black waiting room and a white waiting room. And Mom was the black nurse, like I said, for the black people. One day, after leaving school, I stopped by Sam's Clinic. And as I was waiting up under the pecan tree for Mom to get off from work, a little white lady walked up to me and she said, hey, little girl, come here. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I told her, ma'am, I'm going to be a nurse. But I want to be a nurse that works in the same waiting room for the people, not just the black people, but for the white people too. And she looked at me and she said, well, girl, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you good luck, but I don't know how long this luck going to last. Are you sure you want to be that nurse? I said, yes, I'm going to be that nurse. The nurse for all people. That inspired me to continue my education.
After graduating as class valedictorian in 1965, Phyllis C. Smith attended Albany State College to study for a career as a nurse.
I was able to walk out of Albany State College with a BS degree in nursing. And that made me proud because I followed the dream. And the dream that made me succeed is because my parents believed that I could do it, especially my mom. She said, Phyllis, you can do it. So after finishing college, I went to St. Joseph High School. There I worked 13 years.
I went through Fayette County schools all 12 years. I played basketball on all the way from, like I said, from 5th grade through high school. I'm actually in the Fayette County. I was the first black woman, or just the first black that was inducted into the Fayette County Hall of Fame, Basketball Hall of Fame. I was one of the first people to make the North-South All-Star game. First black to do that. So I had a lot of friends from both sides, the black people, the white people, and at the time when schools integrated, a lot of my friends didn't want to go. But I told my mom, I said, I want to go, and she was like, are you sure? And she signed the papers, and I went. Around the 6th grade, I guess. I can't remember exactly, but it was an eye-opening experience. I only had problems with a few people, not a lot. But my brothers used to always get in fights up at the Dairy Queen with the guys with the bricks and the sticks and that kind of stuff. That happened to them almost every weekend.
My first year in school, I think they had just integrated school. I know my brothers, their first year in school was when it was an all-black school. So my first year was, I think they had just integrated school system, predominantly white school. Life was great, I guess. I mean, from my perspective, I didn't know a lot of the history. Coming up into now, I went through a lot of challenges, I guess, as all of us went through challenges in those days. I remember the Malia's barbecue place. It was a famous barbecue place here in Fayette County. I do remember we had to go in the back. It was colored only in the back. I think the drinking water fountain. I remember experiencing those days as a young kid. I know people may not know because we're on the inside interviewing now, but this historic courthouse, one of the historic courthouses here in Fayette County, in Georgia. I recall when that, and I think I was maybe my junior year in high school, when this courthouse burned down. Someone came and set fire to the courthouse. I remember walking here to the courthouse because we lived just a block from the courthouse. I walked here that night to watch everybody else just experience what was going on. And leaving about 2 a.m., I think I was leaving, walking back to the house, I was actually pulled over by the officers here in Fayette County and harassed for being probably the perpetrator. So that was a jarring experience for me. But by the time they started patting me down and doing all of those things, I think they got a radio call. They had located him somewhere in Clayton County, so they just kind of left, just pulled off and left. And that was a tough experience, I guess, growing up, just knowing the history of Fayette County, some of the experiences of my grandfather, forefathers that just told us some of the name callings and some of those experiences. So had to go through that ordeal. So when we had the Juneteenth last year in 23, just to be able to stand on this courthouse and deliver a message talking about just where we've come from. A delay is not a denial. Even though we were delayed in coming up here in this county, but it didn't deny us from just where we are now.
Bishop Leon Stanley and his brothers attended Fayette County schools during the era of school segregation and as it transitioned into integrated classes. After graduating, he and his brothers acquired jobs with the city.
My brother was the first African-American police officer here in Fayette County. That was a great experience that we did. My oldest brother was the first African-American to ever run the actual public works department here in Fayette County, in the city of Fayetteville. So he was well known. Charles Stanley was well known because he just pretty much ran the city. Everybody favored him. Myself, I was the first lab analyst for the Fayette County water system. I was a lab analyst for 20 years there. So we've experienced some of those, being the first African American, being a part of this county. I became a minister in 1985. Things began to take off from that point. I've been in all of the, like I said, ministering in a lot of the African American churches here in Fayette County, which we celebrated in Black History Month this month. So it's been It's been great. I had an opportunity when Mr. Jordan, who was kind of an iconic figure here, that name Jordan was an iconic figure here in Fayette County. When he passed away, his service was held by Mowell, which was a white funeral home service that carried his body, and I was the first, first African American to be able to go into the First Baptist Church where the service was held at. So that was another prominent thing to be able to just go in there to do his eulogy. I think I was honored to be able to do that.
Another story of strength and determination was shared by Bishop Leon Stanley's brother, Charles, who also grew up in the Church Street community and as a young man worked in the Public Works Department for the city of Fayetteville as a garbage collector, one of the lowest paying jobs.
I started out on the back of a garbage truck myself, and from that part, and took about 5 years on the garbage truck, something like that. And all my buddies started looking at me funny because I was toting garbage, something like that. And oh man, everything had to do in the city of Fayetteville. We had to do everything, the lower part of it, for the picking up dead animals, all that stuff like that. And
during the years of his career with the city, he endured insults, threats, and unwarranted complaints to get him fired. However, despite the insults and hard work, Charles Stanley, through faith, strength, and determination, worked his way up and became the director of the Public Works Department for the city of Fayetteville.
But going to the top was rough, and being black in this area like that, oh man, I'm talking about rough. I'm talking about the N-word, something like that was just regular for somebody in this area like this and working here too. Because in order to keep my job, I keep my mouth shut, something like that. But you had to do it though, because I had a family to take care of, something like that. But I just look at stuff like that, yeah.
After 30 years of dedicated service to the city, he retired in 2012 after suffering a stroke. But he also spoke very proudly of his younger brother, Ernest, who's now a police officer with the city of Fayetteville.
But my brother, though, started out as the second black police officer there in Fayetteville. And he's still working there also now. So, yeah, Ernest Stanley, he's been doing that for a long time there. Yeah, he started, as a matter of fact, I asked him to get a job over there.
During the late 1980s and early 1990s, the black population of Fayette County continued to grow as more black people with professional careers and higher education relocated from the hustle and bustle of the city life, seeking a more relaxed environment. But they soon realized that traits of past racism still existed within the local government and schools. An incident on a school bus, which involved a white student and a black student, initiated the formation of the local chapter of the NAACP after the black student received a much harsher punishment than the white student. Retired airline pilot and former NAACP president John E. Jones recalls the incident.
The idea to start the branch came out of an incident on a school bus, from my understanding. A black child and a white child got into a fight, and the black child was severely punished while the white child was given a tap on the wrist. And so there was a concerned parent coalition, and I believe it was led by Charles Russo, who is now, ironically, the only black commissioner in Fayette County, and Nelson Rivers and a few others. And out of that group came the NAACP. We got our charter in 1997 because the forces of racism, unfortunately, are always working against us. There's always something going on behind the scenes that we may or may not know about. And that's why the NAACP having a branch was so important. So we got the branch started in 1997, had our first Freedom Fund banquet, I think, in 1998. And Cynthia McKinney was a congresswoman at the time, and she was our keynote speaker. And we went on to have many other banquets to raise funds, to be able to do things to help people within the community. At the time, there was a lot of a lot of racial profiling going on with law enforcement. People were getting railroaded into courts, and to some extent still are. But we made a difference. There was a racist judge here in Fayette County, a magistrate judge, and his name was Kenny Malier. And Kenny Malier, he was actually reported by another magistrate judge as using the N-word in their conversations. And so we were able to go through the Judicial Qualification Commission to get rid of him. And then when President Obama got elected, there was unfortunately an incident where someone fired a shot into the church that we meet at, Flat Rock AME Church, and also a shot into another historic black church, Bethlehem Baptist Church in Peachtree City. And they just fired into fortunately nobody was in the building. But we never did find out who did it, but it's sort of like let us know that we were making a difference. And instead of discouraging us, it actually motivated us to continue.
A very important event that helped bring a better appreciation and understanding of Black people and their history was the launching of the Blended History program by the director of the Fayette County Library System, Christine Snell, the first African American to head the library system in Fayette County.
When I became the library director here in Fayette County, Georgia, and the way it happened, it's the most beautiful transition, because I came to help the library director maybe get things together, and I was on loan from the Flintwood Regional Library. But when the library director left, I applied for the position and I got it. It was a small little Margaret Mitchell library at that time. Small little house. It is now the Historical Society. And after all that happened, they had begun building a new library here in Fayette County. And in 1997, actually January 13, 1997, we moved into the Fayette County Public Library. When we moved into that library, we only had 20,000 books. When I left, we had over 200,000. And what is so dynamic about a community and what is so dynamic about a library, it is universal. And when you have so many ethnicities, so many people from different cultures coming to our little town, because I remember when I came here, when we bought a house here in 1988, the little grocery store was right there on 54, the little food market. And then suddenly, and there was Jordan Salvage that was already there. And I remember when we did things at the library, we would go to Jordan Salvage and get items. And then suddenly, it's like you woke up one day and Fayette County had boomed into something that was great. And to this day, it is still growing. So in 1998, I wanted to do something that would bring the community more together. When I was in Griffin, during Black History, we had a Black History program. And no whites would ever come to the Black History program. But I would never forget, there was 2 white ladies from Iowa. So they came one year to the Black History program and said, we're the only 2 whites here. Said, when you say Black History, are you just talking exclusively just Black people to come? And I said, of course not. I said, anybody can come. I said, it's all about heritage and it's a blend. And so when I came into Fayette County, it was the same as Black History or multicultural. And we just called ours Blended Heritage. Because, you know, a blend is, you got a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It took off like wildfire. We had our programs, so we involved everyone in the community. We had poets, we had authors, we had singers, we had dancers. We had people from all over the globe to come to be involved in the Blended Heritage.
dream of a slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. We must tell all of our brothers and sisters that being young and gifted is where it's at. But there is nothing that compares with being young and gifted and black.
So, oh my goodness, it was the most glorious thing that I think that ever happened to this community. I mean, people would say, I'm so glad to be a part of this community. I'm so glad to be, in the library. You all are doing something very different. I remember a patron came in one day and he said, who is in charge of this library with all these activities? And we had the kind of staff where even though I was the library director, I was not this person who said, well, I'm in charge and I'm the boss. Because when you're running an organization, everyone is in charge. So we was at the circulation desk one day and he asked, who's in charge? And one of my staff say, I am. And he looked at me and I say, and I am too. So he looked at both of us and he walked out and said, this place hums. And that's what life and that's what businesses and that's what communities should be about. So who's in charge? We all are in charge because we all gave the best customer service.
With a growing and increasingly diverse population, changes continued to take place throughout Fayette County with more opportunities for Black residents to continue helping the economic and social growth of the county. Except, unlike the early residents who were restricted to mostly farm work and low-paying jobs, today there are many Black-owned businesses and professional career opportunities. One groundbreaking business that opened in the early 1950s was Jordan Salvage, a business started by Robert Jordan that specialized in buying and selling used equipment, tools, dishware, and many other items. Robert Jordan's brother, Joe Jordan, shared the story of his brother's salvage business.
My name is Joe Jordan, and I grew up in Fayetteville, born and raised here, been here all my life, and I enjoy living here. I see a lot happening in this town, and the town has grown a lot since I was a young boy. I grew up there in the Sugar Hill community. It just mostly two streets that we were very familiar with here in Fayetteville for Black people: Church Street and Sugar Hill. And I grew up in the Sugar Hill mostly, and on Church Street. That's why I married my wife. She was off Church Street. So even today, I still live in Sugar Hill. I love it. There's a lot of friendly people over there, and I enjoy living there.
All right, so this is my granddad's house. This is my granddad's sister. She married a Jordan. I think the Jordan that she married, that's his brother, which was related to Jordan that owned the junkyard over here. And yeah.
My brother's name was Robert Jordan. He started his business in the early 50s, I think. And what he did, my brother first started working for Travis Hardware. That's why he learned how to do a lot of, his maneuvering and doing things. Cause he used to go to Atlanta and pick up stuff for Travis Hardware, and he bring it back. And then he said, "Hey man, I can do this myself. I can start me a business of my own doing this." Like I said, a lot of people knew him from working over at Travis Hardware, and so, hey, he got in touch with Dr. Buse about that land down there, so Dr. Buse sold it to him. He started bringing glasses and cornerware, Tupperware, and all that stuff down there, and he started putting it outside. When he started putting it outside, everybody started coming. He had a crowd of people, especially on the weekend, And he said, well, it seemed like a pretty good business. So he stayed in it, and he learned how to treat people. He definitely knew how to treat people. Robert knew how to get along with people, man, because he worked, like I said, worked at the hardware store, and he was familiar with a lot of people that he see every day when he was over there. And so sometimes those people will come by the shop, and he deal with some people that that were well off. Miss Wetwine, Miss Dorothea Wetwine. I never forget. She used to come down and buy a lot of stuff and stuff like that.
Robert Jordan passed on December 16, 2014, but he left a legacy of black entrepreneurship that continues to inspire others today. As a lifelong resident of Fayetteville, Joe Jordan spoke of the changes he's witnessed over the years.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of changes in Fayetteville. I seen the time where we couldn't go in the front door places in Fayetteville. Down the barbecue place down there, Malia's barbecue, we had to go in the back. And a lot of more places we had to go in the back, but now it's got better, it got better. I like it, because time brings about a change, so I guess that's what it all happened, change taking place. I enjoy it. I'm comfortable with it, the way it is now.
Fayette County has continued to change and grow, and more opportunities for black entrepreneurs have opened up. 3 business owners shared their stories of operating their own businesses. Dr. William Osborne shared his story of starting his medical practice here in Fayetteville.
My name is William Osborne. I'm a physician practicing here in Fayette County for so many years. I went to Morehouse undergraduate, and when I finished Morehouse, I went on to Howard University College of Medicine, then finished there, and then came back to Atlanta, fell in love with Atlanta while I was at Morehouse, and came back here and trained at Emory in internal medicine, and spent a lot of time at Grady, and really honing my craft and at that point. And then I wound up at a community health center when I finished Emory called Southside Healthcare, and wound up becoming the medical director of that. And we had an office in Clayton County, and opened that office in Clayton County, and actually applied for privileges at Southern Regional, what was Southern Regional Medical Center back then, and became the first black doctor on staff at Southern Regional Hospital. And can kind of remember going back through the halls there and people saying, orderly, where can you get some water? And I said, no, I'm a doctor. And they actually stopped and said, well, you're not going to touch me. And, I had to just look them right in the eye and say, I have no intention of touching you. And I can remember being in the emergency room, at that hospital, and somebody say, the N-word not going to touch me. And I can remember closing the door and saying, well, there's nobody else coming in here, and it's going to be either you're going to give me permission to save your life or not. And they became more and more short of breath, and they said, please, and will you take care of me? And I think I was young, brash, at that point, and said I couldn't hear you. And through their struggle and labored breathing, they said please, and actually took care of him, saved his life. He was in respiratory failure, saved his life, and actually became a very long-term patient of mine after that. And that was kind of my introduction to this part of town, and wound up moving out to then it was Clayton County, and then moved over into Fayette County, and opened an office on Highway 85 in Fayetteville, and became the first black doctor in Fayette County. My partners are here. We started a business here. We wound up growing from just my partner and I to eventually, before I semi-retired, we had over 75 employees in Fayette County. And so we kind of grown. We're very successful here. We started a free health fair once a year to try fill a need in the community. And what we did, we recognized we had a successful practice, and we wanted to give back something to the community. And we had lots of partners that we would partner with, and doctors that we referred a lot of patients to, and said, hey, we're going to open up our office on a Saturday, and we're going to see everybody who we can see who come through the door, and we're going to take care of them free of charge. And we'd like you to donate, it was a 5 to 6 hour project, to donate that, to give that back to the community.
After many years of healing and saving the lives of many people, Dr. Osborne reflected on his career and plans for the future.
Now that I'm semi-retired, doing more mentoring, I'd like to mentor younger people, get them at a younger age, expose them. You don't have to be perfect. I think sometimes we allude that, in order to be a doctor, you have to be a straight A student, and then you get a B, and then you said, I can't be a doctor anymore. No, that's not true. If you want to be, you can be anything that you want to be. You can actually, if you work hard, it'll turn out. Every doctor that you see right now is not a straight A student all the time. And so that expectation is not real. So to get in front of people and say, no, you can have a slip up here or a bad grade here or something, but still pursue your goal. That's your dream. Go after it. Have ambition and do that, and get in front of them and say, don't give up on your dreams. Never give up on your dreams, because if you'll only get as far as you dream.
Thaddeus White, a resident of Fayetteville, is the owner of College Park Tire and Auto Service, a business he and his family have operated for more than 30 years.
I decided to move to Fayette County after being involved in my business, starting it 30 years ago. I was living in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was a tremendous drive every day. And my wife and I, we looked around in the area. We wanted the best school system for our children. At that time, they were very young, and Fayette County was actually recommended and considered to be a very good place to raise a family, and it certainly hadn't disappointed us because we've been here for 30 plus years. And we moved here. It's a lot closer to work, 17 minutes to get to my location, and the rest have been history. Fayette County is just awesome. And my business is in Fulton County, which is College Park Tire and Auto Service. We're right on Old National Highway, 6169 Old National Highway in College Park. Been there for 30 years. We sell tires and do every aspect of automotive service. We put in engines, transmission, we do brakes, struts, shocks, everything that underneath the hood of an automobile we actually perform. So it's wide open. Any aspects of a vehicle, we certainly can provide that service. And we specialize in excellent customer service by trying to be the best that we can be in terms of the appearance of our facility. 85 to 90% of our customers are females, and certainly we take time to explain and elaborate in details exactly what the recommendations are, go out, show them exactly the items that needs to be repaired, and we treat them like family.
Another well-known business is This Is It Southern Kitchen and Barbecue, whose corporate headquarters is located right here in Fayetteville. Here's Shelley Butch Anthony, President and CEO.
Well, my name is Shelley Butch Anthony III, and I started This Is It in 1983. My parents started this business in 1951 in Tampa, Florida. And I grew up in the restaurant business, and I ended up, one day wanting to show my dad that I could get a job, and, I got a job, and I ended up making prescription eyewear for doctors. And that's how I got to Georgia. The company that I was working for wanted to open a lab in Georgia. So they sent me here for a week, and I decided that, to see whether or not I would move, and I decided that I would, and I ended up moving to Atlanta somewhere around 71, somewhere around in there, and made eyeglasses and got that going, and I kind of wanted to go back to my roots. So I opened up a little barbecue restaurant in Decatur called Butcher's Slide In Barbecue. And, like I say, one thing led to another, and I ended up, not only in the restaurant business, but doing real estate as well. So, God has just directed me, That's where my hope is. It's not in this is it, it's in Jesus Christ. We opened our first location in Fayette County somewhere around 2003 in the Fayette Pavilion. And around that time, God had gave me a vision that it was time for us to own the dirt. And so we operated there for several years, and when the lease was over, I wanted to buy the property, but they wouldn't sell it to me. And a friend of mine, he, had connections here in Fayette County. He's a real estate agent, but he's also a prayer buddy of mine. And we started talking, and one thing led to another. I found a location that I wanted after it was a lot of prejudice and racism going on, back there in that time. And I wanted a location that was on Highway 54 for my corporate office. And the guy, I had made a deal with him and shook his hand. And when he found out that I could buy the property, he reneged on me. He wouldn't give me a contract. So I said, well, Lord, what should I do from here? So then I called my friend, and then he stepped in. And he said, well, Butch, let me look around and see what I can find, and we'll see what happens. So that particular location, we left it alone, and he found the location over here, on McIntosh, where we are today. And not long after I got my corporate office, this scenario came up where Miss Winters used to be in Fayette County, and Miss Winters burned down. And I met a lady the family that owned that piece of property. They were born again Christians, but they lived in another state. And we had good conversation, and she wanted us to have it, that piece of land. At that time, she had been negotiating with the burger place Cookout. And Cookout was going to buy Dairy Queen and that piece of land, but she chose us. That was the favor of God.
All right. Woo. Look. I got that wow. Who wants some hands up right now? We got that, turn it up loud. I know you're wondering how. I got that wow. Wow. I got that wow.
It's the Rib Tips! Two well-known organizations that provide services for the community are Fayette Factor and the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce. Dawn Opara, a dedicated community activist, is the executive director of Fayette Factor, an organization focused on the overall safety, health, and well-being of the county.
Well, how I got started in being involved in the communities as a mother. When we moved here in 1989, I had a third grader and a fifth grader, so I started with the PTO and being active in the PTO. And as my kids got older, I helped start I was a co-founder for AV Pride, which is a leadership development organization. And that's one of the joys of my life, to have worked to develop something that continues to grow. I've moved away from the organization in 2018, but it continues to grow and continues to do good things. The programs that they have to help young people be the best that they can be, and all kinds of leadership development, because young people it's part of the pride.
Welcome to Making a Difference, AV Pride's TV series on underage drinking.
Working with AV Pride, I was a board member with Fayette Factor. The person who I actually hired as the executive director, I worked with her as one of her folks, and then she got sick, and we needed someone else to fill in. So I went from being a board member to being the executive director, and that took place in 2019. But I've been involved, and and the thing about Fayette Factor, our goal is to look at those things that threaten the health and well-being of our community, and try to convene community leaders, look at data that says, we need to work on this. Like years ago, there was a meth task force team that Fayette Factor started because meth was a major problem. And we started the Drug-Free Fayette Coalition because we have a substance use problem. That started in 2016. And like right now, mental health is a major issue, and what we do is we look at data, and we also look at our collaborative partners, and we have collaborative partners from all sectors of the community, and we look at data that they have, we look at local data, we look at state data, and we look at trends and says, what are those things that might impact our community in a negative way, and what can we do to mitigate those threats? And that's why, like right now, mental health is really important. So we look at all those issues, and we always try to figure out what can we do to combat those kinds of things that affect our community.
Another key organization is the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce. With a membership of over 600 businesses, its mission is to provide resources and information to help local businesses thrive and grow. Leonardo McClarty was selected to lead the Fayette Chamber in 2023 as its first African-American president and CEO.
That was an exciting time in Fayette County, and some of my goals to enhance the business community here for our business owners and the like is really about value and relevance. And so looking at how can we do more small business programming, how can we continue to advocate to our elected officials on policies and initiatives that can really support our small business community. Also looking at how, as a business community, how do we continue to be involved within the broader community as we look at how we support education, how we encourage adequate transportation, housing, public health. All of these are things that are community efforts, but at the same time, they directly impact business. And when business is successful, they hire people, they put people to work, people spend money, that money circulates within the community, and that also enables us to address some of these community challenges that we know we have, even in a great county like Fayette.
As the economy and business opportunities continue to grow, how can minority-owned businesses benefit by joining the Chamber?
As a Chamber of Commerce representing the entire county, certainly we want to make sure that we are an organization that is inviting to all businesses. And so while we don't necessarily have programs that might be specific to one group or another, the one thing that is my goal as the first African American leader here is to make sure that we are an organization that is inviting and that is accepting of all businesses in Fayette County. And so if you want to do business here, I want you to know that you are welcome at the Fayette Chamber of Commerce.
As the business and social climates continue to evolve, the political scene also began to see changes when Pota Costin was sworn in as the first African-American county commissioner on January 2, 2015. Unfortunately, within 6 months of her historical appointment, she was diagnosed with cancer and passed on July 3, 2015. Her former husband, Bernie Costin, talked with us about Pota's shakeup of Fayette politics.
As a county commissioner, the things that she really and truly advocated for was for our school system. She also was an avid supporter in the areas of just making sure that she could bring people together. She wanted to make sure that she unified the community instead of the separation that was occurring, because we all know one of the problems that we've had in Fayette County is the separate look of things. But she wanted to be a unifier. She wanted to be a person who could be looked upon as far as looking at the issues and how we can find common ground, regardless of whether you're red or blue or black or white. That was her whole goal as far as that was concerned. I think that some of the things that we're seeing going on right now, she would be so proud of. She would be proud of the growth that we've seen in Fayetteville itself, the things that Ed Johnson has done as mayor to move us forward, the things that the county commission has done in relation to, just recently the breaking of the U.S. Soccer Federation's home, the home field being here, and the training and development that's going to occur, as well as the continued growth over in the Trilith area with the growth that's happened there. So those are some of the things that I think that she would be most proud of. Now, in relation to, the whole situation with POTA's diagnosis of cancer, that was really, for me as well as for her, that was one of the biggest hurdles, I'll say, that we ever dealt with. Can you imagine, winning an election that you had really and truly put your heart and soul into, and then 2 months later, getting a diagnosis of cancer that had metastasized, and to get that diagnosis, that really and truly was heavy on both of our hearts, as well as our son. We still remain committed to one of the things that she wanted to do above and beyond everything else. Upon receiving that diagnosis, she still was committed to doing her job as county commissioner.
To ensure that her passion to make Fayette County a better place for all would never be forgotten, a memorial was built in Kenwood Park to honor and forever remember POTA Costin.
The whole idea behind putting a monument up for POTA came as it was really started with a couple of people in the community. In particular, I've got to give credit to Leila Richardson, who she has since moved from the area. She lives in Daytona Beach now. Nona Houston, one of her sorority sisters with Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We also had Erica Wilson Radney, who is one of my neighbors. They were three of the main people, as well as the members of Delta Sigma Theta. Well, Kenwood Park in particular was one of those parks that was near and dear to POTA. During her campaign, she pointed out to me, she says, "You've got to see this park. You've got to see this park. It is just so neat." She says, "I just want to go over there and just, sit on a bench and be able to read and to meditate." She said, "It is really, really unbelievable." And I'm like, okay, so where is it? Because I had never been to Kenwood Park. So I didn't know what she was talking about. She took me over there, and just the area that she was at, it was just so serene. It was so peaceful. And the other part about the park was monies had not been appropriated to the park at the level that other monies had been appropriated. That was one of the main things that she fought for, to make sure that monies were appropriated to Kenwood Park at the same level that it was going to other parks. So she made that one of her goals as well, and that came to fruition. But once the powers that be found out that this was a park that was near and dear to her, they came back and said, the only appropriate place that we could put any type of a monument up, or even a garden to remember her, would be Kenwood Park. And initially, some people wanted to just say, well, we'll just put some flowers out there in memory of her. Well, again, the committee that was behind all this, they said, oh no, we're going to do this, and we're going to do it upright. And what they did was they went out and solicited private donations from people, and people just came out overwhelmingly. It was just an unbelievable show of love that they had. So when they went forth to the county commission and said, we want to do this for POTA, and when they asked, okay, so where's the money coming from? They were already able to show the county commissioners, this is where the money is. We've already got, contributions. We've already got commitments from people. It's all paid for. And all you have to do is give the okay as far as putting a monument up, as far as a way for remembering her.
The political scene continued to evolve as Charles Russo was elected as county commissioner to represent the 4th District of Fayette County. His effective leadership earned him the respect of fellow commissioners, government staff, business owners, and residents of Fayette County.
Charles D. Russo, Commissioner for District 4 here in Fayette County. The district is a very diverse district that covers a large portion of the county in the northern tier, out to the western tier of the county and down through the city primarily of Fayetteville, one of our 5 municipalities that are here in the glorious community called Fayette County. That community, Fayetteville, happens to be also represented by a mayor who's African American, Ed Johnson, who previously served on the city council. And he's joined now by a young man who's done years of service in the military named Darrell Langford. He's a city council member and has basically replaced the mayor from city council, moving to the mayorship, and now a next generation, if you will, of young people are emerging. Also, Dr. Naima Glover serves on the Fayetteville City Council. And so that's part of my journey, who I am, and the position that I currently hold. Just remind folks that I'm not identified by my position, but certainly identified by the service that I provide to my community, my constituents, my family.
Providing service to the community can be both challenging and rewarding. Commissioner Russo spoke of both the challenges and the rewards.
When I joined the Board of Commissioners, some of our roads in my district have not been paved in decades, not years, decades. Our park system was non-existent in my particular district. One had just come on board, and I made sure additional resources, a trail system, more active spaces such as volleyball courts and basketball courts and tennis courts were added to that equation. It's a real battle for resources sometimes. Other times it's a cultural shift in mindset of where our policies should be going, what the blueprint is for the community when we talk about good public policy. Example, we don't have, in our 202-year history, we have never built a community/recreation center in the county. Now, Peachtree City has a recreation center, but that's a municipality. In the unincorporated part of the county, we have never had a vision to build a recreation and community center. I'm happy to say to you, Brother Beatty, today is that through 6 years of pushing, we will have our first recreation and community center in the 202-year history. A place where people gather, a place where our seniors can continue to have therapeutic activities that keep them engaged, keep their motor skills going, keep their health, mental, physical health going. I'm happy to report after 6 years of fighting, we finally will have our first ever recreation center in the history of our county. Secondly, we talk about health and public health. We talk about the issues that we were uncovered during the pandemic. We were able to secure funding to build a brand new public health center.
In his closing remarks, Commissioner Russo reminds us of the importance of economic empowerment and reinvestment in our Black communities.
And so, they tease me oftentimes, Brother Beatty, about, I maybe don't own a pair of jeans. And so I wore this shirt purposely as we celebrate the legacy and the actions of some of our forefathers and our elders and those who are in our community. And this shirt is a shout out, if you will, to the men and women who lost their lives, but were dedicated to the proposition that they could have economic empowerment in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I wore this as a symbolic and a salute to their efforts of knowing that we can do these kinds of things independently, but we must come together as a community, pool our resources, being a billion-dollar community on hair, nails, whatever it is that we spend on, we certainly can invest in ourselves. And I was so proud when I learned of this story years ago, the significance of Juneteenth. And this is a manifestation of that, of being able to build their own community. We have the power, we have the influence, we have the capital. And these are the things that we need to do in the days and weeks and months ahead as we think about entrepreneurialism, our buying power, and how we can control the markets in our own community. Recycle black dollars, as they say.
Another historical change that took place in Fayette County was the election of Ed Johnson as the first African American city councilman for the city of Fayetteville in 2012. And by demonstrating great leadership and vision, he was elected to serve as the mayor for the city in 2016.
Hello, I'm Edward Johnson. I am currently the mayor for the city of Fayetteville, Georgia. And as a result, I have served as mayor for 3 terms. I'm originally from the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. Graduating from L.B. Landry High School in 1978, I then went to undergraduate school at Dillard University in New Orleans, obtaining my degree. And after graduating from Dillard University, I had no idea of what I wanted to do. And as a result, decided to join the United States Navy to serve my country. I was commissioned as an ensign and served for almost 22 years, finally retiring with the rank of Commander, United States Navy, Surface Warfare. During my matriculation as a naval officer, I realized my call to be a servant leader, and as a result became more involved in the denomination that I had was predominantly participating in, which is African Methodist Episcopal Church. And as a result, I became a minister and was appointed when I moved to Atlanta to serve as the pastor of Mount Carmel AME Church in Sharpsburg, Georgia. After serving there for 3 years, I was reassigned to be the pastor of Flat Rock AME Church in Fayetteville, Georgia, which is the oldest African American church in Fayette County. While serving as the pastor of Flat Rock, I was elected to serve as the president of the Fayette County branch of the NAACP. And the NAACP made some great strides. Based upon that, several of the community leaders approached me and asked me to run to be city council member for the city of Fayetteville. Initially, I was reluctant to serve or to run for that office because being a full-time pastor, I just really didn't think I would have time, and it went against my idea of separation of church and state. However, after constant inquiry and persistence from several of the community members, I ran for city council in 2012 and was elected the first African American to serve on the Fayetteville City Council. After serving for 4 years, we made significant progress as a council member, and the many citizens saw my leadership and asked me to run for mayor in 2016. I ran for mayor in 2016, and I beat the incumbent and have been serving as the mayor for 3 terms since 2016. I think recognizing that as we continue to increase the population, there were a lot of needs and demands from the citizens to have the city provide services and provide facilities and entertainment that would make them feel comfortable that their city provided their needs with amenities. And so as a result, we continue to look at opportunities to grow the city. One of the areas was in the city's administration. We occupied a very old schoolhouse that was given to the city, and it became our city hall. Our staff had continued to grow, and we essentially had outgrown the building, and the building was somewhat in bad shape. So as we looked around at what did we want the city to represent to the citizens, we thought initially that the city needed a prominent place that the citizens could feel proud of to come and transact business, but also a place that would allow them to come and to enjoy some of the amenities, such as water park we have in our city hall, amenities such as restaurants, as well as in a facility that will allow them to come out and enjoy themselves. So we strategically planned a new city hall. We were successful in getting a referendum passed by the citizens to allow us to use capital funding to build the new city hall. And we designed, I think, in mind, a city hall that would not only meet the needs of our staff and our citizens, but also a city hall that would provide additional amenities for the citizens to enjoy. So in 2017, we started building. And in 2021, we completed the work and built the brand new city hall that is now, I think, a centerpiece of the city of Fayetteville. When I look back and get ready to retire, I like to believe that we've accomplished those things that I initially set out to accomplish, and that is to build a community that is collaborative, a community that is successful, and a community that is working diligently to overcome the histories of the past.
As Fayette County continues to evolve into the best place that offers a high quality of life, business and career developments, peace, respect, and equal opportunities for all, we must never forget those who came before us, who were strong, resilient, and endured unimaginable hard times, but with their faith, strength, and determination, helped to make today's Fayette County the wonderful place we all are proud to call home.